What club should you chip with is a question that I get asked a lot. Guys, I'm Matt Fryer and today I'm going to give you a real simple explanation as to how to be choosing the right club to chip from each different scenario when we're out on the golf course. Let's get stuck into this lesson. Before we get stuck into the lesson though, guys, do make sure you are part of the community here. Hit the subscriber button, get better at the game with me. Let's take a look at these chipping scenarios. Now, as we're out on the golf course, we're going to face a lot of different scenarios. I'm here at Playa del Rey and I'm on the first hole, and this green offers up some really good scenarios. We've got a perfect scenario for what I would class my 3 chip shots, those being a low, a medium and a high, and I'm going to talk you through each one, the club selection, how you're going to play it and when to play it, because I think a lot of the times amateurs fall down. They could maybe get a great strike on their chips and they could have picked the right club, but they've picked the wrong scenario, or they've maybe picked the right scenario, wrong club, good strike, vice versa, and we sort of don't get the result we want just because we've not got one of these factors marrying up. So if we can get it right, even if we have a mediocre level of talent, we should actually start to see that we get some shots that are closer to the hole. So we're going to dive in. We're going to start in the middle, we're going to then go low, and then we're going to go to the high shot as we finish. So for me, the medium shot, well, what do I classify these as? When I'm talking low, medium and high, that refers to the flight. So the medium shot isn't the one that's towering up in the sky or the one that's running low along the ground. It's the one that's got a little bit of flight to it, it's got a little bit of spin, and it's got a little bit of run on it. And this would be the perfect scenario for that one here, because as I get to my golf ball here now, it's sat okay. And the first thing, just to caveat all this, you've got to take into account what it is lying like, because that will dictate what shot you're actually able to hit. This lesson is based on the ball actually lying okay for all 3 of these scenarios. So as the ball is lying here quite nicely, my only real obstacle is this bit of grass, this little bit of knoll that I've got to get over. So we see a change in the slope going from upslope to downslope, but then I've got quite a bit of green to work with when I actually get onto that putting surface. So round here I couldn't really run it low because I don't know how it's going to react, and it might go shooting off down that slope when it's going out too low, as where if I'm too high I've got a long way to go and I'd have to get it perfect. So this medium flight one is going to be the one that I want to play. To play the medium flight chip, I would say that we're working off 50% run and 50% flight, and to do that you're probably going to want something like this, one of your middle wedges, maybe a pitching wedge for you. It might be a 50 degree, a 52 degree. What we don't want to see is that we're using a 6 or a 7 iron or our 58 or our 60. And then once we've got that, once we now know the scenario that we're able to play this in, now we know that the lie is good and we know that we've got the right club, it's quite simple from there for what I really need to do. I see a lot of people straight away going wrong. They've made 2 great choices thus far, but from here is where it all falls down, because as I actually go to the golf ball now, I start to address it almost like a full shot. So I see my hands getting down into a lower position here, I see my feet being quite far apart, and I see my setup being quite neutral in terms of my spine position. What we want to do is try and get a little bit more vertical, so as you're stood over that golf ball, you're going to feel like you're coming up away from it ever so slightly. From there then, our ball position is going to be pretty central. What I see a lot of people doing is putting it too far back, and when we do that we're going to get a lot of shaft lean, which in turn is going to expose the leading edge and also is going to take the loft off the golf club, so we're losing that mid-flight aspect that we want. We want to see a little bit of shaft lean, a tiny amount as we go through. We want to see that ball position placed in the centre, and then from there I'm going to feel that I'm leaning now towards my target. And what I want to try and do is also avoid dropping that back shoulder up in the air thinking I'm going to try and help this golf ball up in the air, because that's when I start to get the poor contact behind the golf ball, or even those thins, those tops, and see the ball go rattling off at a million miles an hour over the green. As I actually make the swing, the only thing I want to try and do is have a little bit of wrist action, but not loads, not cocking it and uncocking it loads throughout the golf ball. I'll have a tiny bit, they'll feel supple. But the big thing that I want you to take away from this shot is that as you hit the golf ball, you're then going to feel that your left pocket for the right-handed golfer is being pulled away and you're turning out towards the target. So your finish would look something a bit more like this, where we see now that I've got the club saddled down near my left side and I've got my body now out towards the target. What we don't want to see is that I'm trying to help it up too much and I'm keeping my chest square onto the golf ball. So real simple. And one last little tip I would give you as well, when you're having your practice swings, just try and get a good sense of brushing the ground down below. Feel where that arc is going to bottom out and just play some nice little shots just like so. Pops out, goes running towards the target, go and then, oh! Just ran over the edge of the hole. And that is how we're going to play our medium flight shot. Let's take a look at the low one. So our low shot is exactly like it says, it's going low, it's going along the ground, and this shot is best suited when you have quite a lot of green to cover with no real undulation to go. I've just found myself just off the front of the green here, and as we can see, the flag is about maybe 20 to 30 paces up the green here. There's a little bit of undulation, and some people might want to get the putter out here, and that's totally fine. If you want to do that, go ahead and get your putter out. But in this scenario, we want to try and be able to also play a chip and run shot, a little bit of a link style shot that we would see, maybe not so much in the American style of golf. What we need to do is move away from our mid-lofted club now. We're going to move into something like an 8-iron, a 7-iron. I've done a lot of practice with my 8-iron, and this is the one that I would tend to gravitate towards when I want to play this shot. It's got less loft, so the ball's going to come out a little bit flatter, and what I'd be looking here is probably a third of flight versus 2/3 of run here. And like I say, what I don't want to be doing is playing that shot in the scenario that we've just seen, where I would have something to get over, i.e. a big collar of rough, some undulations. It's for a shot here where there's nothing really in front of me, and I just want to get a bit of strike, get a little bit of initial lift, maybe over a tiny collar of rough, or if I'm not sure how the ball's going to come out if I were to put it, and just lift it towards that target onto the green and let it run out from there. Then as we go to play this shot, the setup is going to change a little bit, because as we saw earlier, we wanted that ball a bit central and we wanted that weight to get towards the lead foot. Now the weight's going to stay there, we want to get it out towards that lead foot, but what we want to try and do is get this ball more aligned towards the back of my foot here. Reason for that being means now is what we didn't want from the previous shot is I'm going to get the shaft leaning forwards and I'm going to take a little bit more loft off, so I'm going to get that driving flight. That strike's going to be ball then turf, and it's going to come out low. I'm not trying to add loft to it and get it up the front, so I'm going to make sure that that ball's somewhere near the backside, and I'm going to feel that as I grip the club, it now sort of rests near my front leg there. I'm not seeing it too neutral. I'm going to feel it's a little bit more lent towards the target with less loft on it. Again, I want to see that I'm raising up here. I want to feel that I'm tall as I address the golf ball. Now that I'm feeling taller as I've stood up to the golf ball, what I'm going to try and do is almost feel like I adopt my putting stroke. I don't want to see loads of wrist being used in this stroke. I want to feel that the main action is coming from my shoulders and my arms being connected, and I create this rocking-like motion as I go through. So I'm going to get that weight forwards. I'm going to get this ball towards the back of the stance, lean that shaft a bit more, feel tall, and then from there, that rocking like motion, picking a target about a third out in front of me, which is going to see this ball running out nicely. There we go, running along the ground. Come on, turn in for me. And nicely done there, just allows me to navigate the green and get it running up there to see that that would be my low shot. Let's take a look at the third and final, which is that high shot. And our high shot is in a scenario like this. Now, before we try and learn this one, before we try and play it, it's going to require some practice, and your sort of acceptance rate or the chances of pulling it off become a little bit lower, because it is a very hard shot to do. But if we can play it and play it half good, we're going to be all right from there. But what we will see is something where I've got quite a bit of elevation, I've got very little green to work with here, and then I'm coming down the slope. You might be going over a bunker, you might be pitching onto a down slope, but what you're doing is essentially having to get that ball up in the air, so when it lands it comes down softly and it isn't running away from you quickly. That's the key element, and to do that, the first thing that we need to do is choose choose a club with the most loft, something like our 60, our 58, whatever your most lofted club is, that's the one we're going to need here, because as you can see now, the severity of the slope here is quite extreme, but then when we get up onto it, I've only got about 4 or 5 paces to stop that golf ball. So if I try playing my low one, firstly, I don't know if it will get up the slope. The medium one might come out and just get the slope and maybe run back, or I get it and it's going to run too far, as where this one is going out high. It's going to fly about 2/3 of the distance and then have about 1/3 of the run. Obviously, different scenarios will change on that, but that is what we're looking for. A lot of flight with height and very little run as we go through. So now that we know we've got our most lofted wedge, again, we want to be standing tall. We don't want to see that we're down, crouch low. We're going to feel that we're getting up here, and then from there I will start to adopt a slightly bigger stance here, because as well as loft, what I need a little bit of is speed for allowing this club to slide under the golf ball. And because there is a lot of loft, and this is where a lot of amateurs fall down, when we have that 60 degree, this ball is going airwards. It's not going out straight and flat and forwards, it's going up. So if we lack speed, if we lack commitment, it'll just plop in front of us. So by maintaining just a slightly bigger stance here, that's going to give me a base where I can actually build a bit more speed into it. Now, ball position wise, I'm actually going to move it just ahead of center here. I'm still going to see that my weight's going towards the target, but what I want to try and do is see that the shaft now is leaning pretty neutral. I'm not going to lean it forwards because that's going to take the loft off, and I'm not going to lean it too far back because it's not going to provide a good strike, a good base for me to actually complete this golf swing. So a little bit wider in my stance, that weight still going forwards. Remember, we don't want the shoulders tilting too much as well, try and keep them level. And then from there, as I play this one, I will actually use a bit more wrist motion here. I will actually hinge them, because as I come through impact, what I'm going to try and do is let the club head pass my hands and slide under the golf ball here. So as I finish, we'll see that I almost have the face looking back towards me here. I'm not trying to play my low one where I'm keeping the loft off. I'm trying to include loft to get that height on the shot. So I've felt a little bit taller. I've got the right setup here, and then for me now, like I said earlier, your success rate might be a little bit low. What I would start to do if you're playing these shots, don't get too cute by thinking I'll just land it onto the green. Try and almost slam dunk it and give yourself some room beyond the flag to actually give yourself a bit of a buffer. But we've got a good setup here. I'm going to add that little bit of speed and let the club slide, and from here, what we should start to see is a shot that pops out. Oh, and I nearly did. Has that gone in? Oh no, it's a foot away. A foot away. But all I've done there is allow that club to pass out, and we see the height that that got, and it didn't get too far running when it got down on the green. So 3 simple shots that you need to learn and practice for me, guys. Think about that low, think about that medium, think about when you need them out on the golf course. Is there undulations? Is there not? How far are you going? What club is best suited? And from there, then you're going to be able to play some better chip shots and start scoring better. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed that video. Remember to sub, and if you have, why not check out one of our other lessons just here.